Fuck it. It's my recording. I'll put in whatever I want.
Dubstep soundtrack.
This is where I enter that point.
Yeah.
Bienvenue chez discountel.ch.
It's just a look at like how, so it's called spoken word, speaking word, and it's like there isn't that spoken word is like very on a pedestal and like literature-sized and like, you know, canonicized and it's hard and scary, but actually we do it every day.
Yeah.
Every single person engages in it, especially when they care, and like that's what spoken word is like take something you care about, write it down, speak it out.
When I perform poetry, I feel free to say exactly what I want to say. In a normal situation when I can't find the words, there's some kind of frustration or embarrassment that might come with that.
What would you say?
What? Who do I really enjoy listening to? Depends what kind of mood I'm in, but there are some things that transcend all of the moods, and that would be people who care about what they're saying.
Yeah.
That want, and even if it's so boring and genuinely someone could describe a glass in a pub to me.
Passion, yeah, people are passionate.
Just a care.
Passionate about what they're saying. Like obviously, like if you're telling a story about kind of something you've done in the day, you'd hope that you'd be passionate about it, otherwise why are you telling it? But like if you're telling a story, whether it's about your day or whether it's a story that you've heard or like a myth or something that happened in history, it's important to have passion about the thing that you're talking about and be excited to be sharing.
And even if it's like I want you, and there's something, I want people to bridge that gap. Like here's me and you sitting here. There's no way, I mean, just the sheer magic of me being able to take something that's so abstract, that doesn't exist, that's literally composed of electric sparks in my fucking head.
Your face.
And then being able to transmute them into something, cross this table and have that same image or care or emotion or something appear in you is unfucking believable.
I think that gets to a point in when you're talking to someone and you're getting on with them, that your brains kind of like click and you understand each other's way of thinking a bit more. And if someone is telling you a story or asking you a question or talking about something a bit more deep, you can kind of see the other person's understanding, or they'll finish your sentence, or they'll give the exact answer you were thinking when you asked the question, or...
Sorry, but the thing of, if I'm brushing my teeth and my mouth is full of stuff, and if I make a noise in response to what you're saying, at this point you'd kind of know what I was saying just based on the intonation and the sound. Whereas with other people it would be impossible. They should be like, what? Like empty. Like it's like, no, but you know what I am. You should by now know, you know.
I think it's when there's like a sudden point where you understand one another more. This person is now not a mystery.
Who did you grow up around that would like tell you stories, or just speak and do? I know, just connect with you via words, and you were like, oh yeah, I'll actually stop what I'm doing and pay attention to you.
Oh, that's a hard one actually. I guess the obvious answer is mum and dad, but like, yeah, that's all I can say really. Just being read to stories or sung to, read to out loud. I remember being in the bath and my mum reading to me. That was good. That's a bit in White as well, in the radio bit. He said I read a story, Fossil says like, I read it a long time ago. And Howard's like, I thought you didn't read Mr. Fossil. And it's like, my mum read to me in the shower. But yeah.
And yeah, I always really enjoy listening to my grandparents talk about stories. Mostly because I just find the stories themselves really interesting. And to hear it from their own perspective makes it, even more interesting. Because, especially from stuff that was 60, 70 years ago, it's stuff you could never have any inkling of experiencing. And just that, it's just fascinating to hear a subjective viewpoint. Like my nan and granddad on my mum's side, I always loved talking to them about their life and growing up, even though, they didn't go off to war or anything, even though they grew up during wartime. They just had the most, fascinating family life. Like, my nan, she's lived in the same house all her life. She lives in the same house now that she was born and grew up in. When she was growing up, she had 7 sisters and a brother. And her grandma lived in the front room, and there was a piano, and it's a tiny little house, and they had 10 people living there. With the grandma living in the front room, and having a tin bath in front of the fire, and there's a piano in that same room, and there was always people coming in and out, like the postman and milkman, or whoever. Like my nan's only brother, he ended up being a bus driver, and that was just a really, I remember one little story that sticks in my mind is that my nan's mum, my great-grandmother, was with a lot of her friends, and they were quite drunk, and they saw the bus was coming, and that it was Ernest, my nan's brother, and my great-grandmother's son was driving it, and they held it down, and as soon as Ernest saw it was them, he closed the door again and sped off. I always love hearing those type of stories. It's the kind of thing you always say to yourself, I've got to write these down, because you don't want them to be lost, because even though she lived in the same place all her life, it's so many varied stories. She's the only person in the family with a criminal record, for something, really silly, just because she was with a group of older girls and they peer pressured her into breaking into a factory to steal some things for them, and she was the only one that got caught. And she ended up in court, in the witness box at 7 years old. And she got really traumatised by it, of course. And it was just, it's a whole different world back then, really.
I heard stories from my family members growing up. I was read stories. I was recited storybooks that my mom had memorised. And I was told real life stories as well. I think when I grew up, I had a lot of boys around who often liked to play things that I didn't like to play. So when they would be getting into their PlayStation games, I'd often sit with my mom and her friends and hear all of their real life stories.
And so anyone who's able to harness that and make me care, and I don't care how you do it, and I don't really care what it's about, I just really using speech to make me feel something, or explore something, or learn something, or connect, just a connection. So I would listen to anyone talk about anything, so long as I thought that they wanted me there and they wanted me to listen, and that's all it takes.
And my grandparents always really enjoyed talking about their life stories. So, it's something they could happily talk about, and I don't know, for all I know, they're happy to have someone to listen who's interested. In terms of someone I know who I enjoy hearing telling a story, it's quite hard to think of someone specific, because I feel with a lot of my friends it's quite nice to just hear them talk about anything.
Yes, I agree. It's beautiful to hear about people's days, and it's a shame when people don't tell you or feel like you don't care. Someone talking about a dream and people not interested, as if that's really boring. I think that's really an interesting thing. Like, oh, what did you dream about? That's cool. I want to know.
I love hearing about people's dreams.
Yeah, it's wicked.
I don't really know why it's a thing. Why?
I don't know. I think there's a whole, maybe it's a cultural thing, but a thing of being like, oh my god, I had the craziest dream last night, and then people are like, oh really? It's but that is interesting, Maybe it's in the context of your co-worker telling you something you don't care about them in the first place. Maybe it's that. But I don't know.
You have to care about the person that's actually telling you. But I don't even think I have that.
No, I think I like it.
I want to hear. Tell me what weird shit your psyche got up to last night.
Dreams are great.
you know, I'd always enjoy hearing a friend or even just someone I just met, just someone about something they're interested in or, you know, excited about. I think that's what, if you can feel the other person's enthusiasm, I think that goes a long way. If someone's bored or not interested in what they're talking about, it's really hard to engage and to get on a level with it.
Check the number and dial again.
The most recent one was it began, and I was like, oh my god, it's happening. I flew up straight up in the air, like, I can fly! I'm not, this sounds like a joke, but I'm not joking you. I reached the edge of the atmosphere, and my head hit a satellite when I woke up. I'll promise you that happened. It was like, I can't even let myself enjoy this. It was so annoying. It was like, and I woke up. I know.
I think to feel a real connection to a person, I feel like it has to be a conversation that's kind of going past the small talk, that's going quite deep.
But yeah, I feel more connected to people when there's less of a need for. It feels like preamble, you know. It feels like a real kind of unnecessary, stiff upper lip kind of foreplay to being a friend with someone.
I feel like talking about doing things isn't kind of conversation that really connects you. I feel like it's the stuff that you can't just observe from someone. It's the stuff that the way that their brain works, or their thoughts and feelings about something, or their reactions, their kind of deeper opinions on things. I feel like that's how it kind of truly connects with someone. Like a little window into their brain. I feel like that's how I feel like you can't connect on the surface. You have to connect like brain to brain, like heart to heart, like through connecting to that person's inner world.
Because it is important, I do find. I say foreplay, and I think I mean that because there is something very intimate about like being close friends with someone, which is valuable, which is partly why people get jealous, I think.
Yeah, but the best thing I took from uni, especially at the Arts University, was just meeting a whole great crowd of people that I just felt I really belonged with, and everyone was so open and friendly. I think a lot of it comes from I never really, especially like primary school, I didn't really feel I fitted in, and secondary school as well. And I had friends, but it was never. You can't, you take it for granted. I had nice friends and they were nice people, but there was never much of a mutual connection all the time. There's one or two, but it's like I didn't really know like how good a friend you could have till I got to uni, and just like when there's such a mutual connection like that, yeah.
I think that's part of why I feel so have a lot of love or connection with Lawrence, is that he's very rebellious in a similar way to I am. I think you are too, like in terms of like authority, and not because I'm radical and I live in a tent, I just mean that like and also shop at Waitrose, and it's not that kind of thing, but there's a kind of rebelliousness with any kind of authority, like Lawrence saying to that teacher who was quite clearly picking on him and singling him out, and him saying, do you remember when you lost your passion for this job, miss? Like at the age of like 10. It's the funniest thing ever. But yeah, I think
Message 3, GA03MN.
Right, so first one. What brought you to writing poetry? I feel like I've written poetry as long as I can remember. As a musician, writing lyrics is something I've always done. And I certainly wrote a lot of poetry back in high school, just for fun. And I remember at uni, there was a yearly poetry and short story competition, and I thought, oh yeah, I could probably do that. So I remember submitting a poem to that, and I won the competition, And I think it was beginner's luck because I've never had so much success since then.
And tell him, and I did. I did. He said, tell me.
Oh, was she with someone?
Yes.
Oh, yeah, that's
Really awful. So I happened to do. And Martin was in. You know.
Jay
finished.
Oh, yeah.
That's what we do. Who asked you? Who asked you? So carry on. I was telling no.
Yeah, so I went and had the police.
Her man's nice, isn't it, Barney?
He's a lovely man, he is. A gentleman.
Yeah.
And we stopped swearing in front of him.
I've never sworn ever in my life. Yeah, no, it's funny. He barely swears, but then when he does, I find Hello?
That was my impression of the sound of the bit alarm.
If you come like openly and honestly to anything that you want to like, connect with, being able to articulate or like say things is kind of a massive part of that. And yet people are really scared of kind of writing poetry or writing things down in case they don't make sense or they don't know enough, which means that there's so much thinking behind it when you just need to have the feeling of it, because people like the sound of words. Like sometimes when me and my brother Josh are chatting and we just kind of have like nonsense conversations, and it's very much, you know, just whatever kind of first comes into our head, and then we just keep bouncing off one another. It's quite a fun process, I guess. Yeah, not having.
Nice sad little tune.
It's really good. You do it again. It sounded so nice. You liked your voice. You're still gonna be like, what song is this? Enjoying it.
Meeting, you know, I've met people before where they have a really nice accent. Like I always really like German accents, I always really like Irish accents. And I remember just, you know, if you're in a group with someone with an accent you like, just being, not even needing to speak, just be really enjoying just being in the presence, just really like soaking it up. Even though I don't know if that's strange or not, but, you know, it's something, yeah, I do definitely enjoy a nice accent. If it's, yeah, and it could be any, you know, I like accents that a lot of people, like other people don't like Brummy ones. Because I remember in my first job at Ragdoll, the technician guy had a really strong Birmingham accent, and I would just, like, it's going to sound strange again, but like I would always hope he would help me out with something just so I could hear him talk, like, again, like, because he was just talking about IT stuff. But I found his voice so relaxing and so engaging. I just really liked it. He had quite a strong Birmingham accent, but I love that accent so much. I would just secretly always, you know, look forward to when he was going to come and fix something on my computer or something, or, you know, just to hear him talk about it again. I remember, yeah, like when COVID hit and we were working from home, I'd have to call him up about, you know, tech support stuff, and always, yeah. Again, it's probably silly. It's definitely an ASMR thing again. It's like, it's not like an attraction or that kind of response. It's just like some kind, yeah, again, it's hard to explain, but it's just an enjoyment of that kind of a sound that makes you feel relaxed or just content somehow. Yeah, and I certainly enjoy listening to you, Tara, talk about things. I mean, I know I'm going to sound like the most boring sycophant, seeing as this is your project, and if this is playing back to the audience, I do apologise. But
Veuillez composer le numéro souhaité.
It speaks separately about like his voice itself, how he uses his voice like an instrument. The way he plays with and uses words like they're things is not something I've seen or would expect. Or the only other similar thing I've seen like that is like from that psychoanalysis friend. I don't know anyone else who, on the level of sound, like either in real time or in voice messages or in text, like the sound of or the look, how a word is written, communicates in that way. And I find like the overall experience of communicating with him to be disorganizing and it's kind of scattering.
Nonsense is being able to just be like wacky, and it's kind of a way of describing something that would be otherwise, I don't know, childish in some way, or just like silly. And I think there's beauty in being able to revert to that kind of mindset. I think it's part of our nature. Like in the wild, you see animals like playing about all the time. I think we've just taken to a set routine which doesn't involve nonsense. A no-nonsense routine.
What was the question? Is it beautiful?
Yeah, so is there something kind of actually beautiful?
Is there I think it's beyond beautiful. I think it's important. I think it's both. I think it's a lot of things, but it's important and beautiful.
My favourite word, I'm pretty sure, is specificity. Simply because it's just a fun word to say. I like the combination of sounds made when you say it. There's a lot of eyes in there. And also I like the irony that you can only use the word under specific circumstances, but I try and fit it into conversations as much as I possibly can. I suppose if the specificity of the situation calls for it, then I can say specificity without any sort of guilt. Specificity guilt.
But I quite like pretty sounds, and when I think of, but pretty isn't actually that much of a pretty word because it's got T, which is quite hard. But kind of what I'd imagine a pretty sound to be is more like ethereal, which I feel like is a softer word. You've got the kind of vowel sounds and the kind of soft like the ethereal. So I would try and think of an ethereal word, but I feel like ethereal could just be the word that I'm thinking of.
A lot of my favourite words aren't real words. Because I met you at Smurley. I met Smurley.
Smurley Smithington.
Yeah.
The parade.
Yeah, the Smell Parade. But like. Next question.
5:48. My favourite colour to look at is a kind of turquoisey blue.
Turquoise is sort of nice, isn't it? I guess there's something sea related to it.
My favourite colour is like a dark blue. Kind of that region of blue. Like jeans are that colour, and the sea is often that colour.
And there's something about that kind of blue at the same time where it's not like a really kind of sky blue, and it's not like a really bright navy.
Or like blue, that kind of blue is a bit more rare. I think I just find blue more calming to look at, more kind of satisfying.
Similar to grey in a way to me, in that it's not neutral, but it doesn't stand out, and for that reason it kind of stands out to me anyway.
Probably green, because it just makes me think of like lying down looking at the trees and stuff, it being all sparkly.
The sun's going down and the sky isn't too pink, then there's kind of like a perfect point where it's like a bluish, dark blue colour.
And my favourite colour to wear is yellow. I think they're both colours that you can find in nature on a sunny day. They make me happy.
My favourite colour is definitely dictated by, partly I guess by what literally suits me, as in like I have red undertones on my skin, so red really suits me, so I wear a lot of red, and I think because I wear it, it's become almost like part of my identity, and my hair is red as well. And so then I quite like red objects. I think I quite like strong colours. I don't like pastels. I quite like bold colours. So I guess it'd be red, but then it has in the past also been purple and blue, but like strong purples and strong blues.
No pastels for you?
No pastels for me, no, only bold colours. I guess blue probably does come from nature, from like the sky and from, you know, the sea, and that kind of the deepness of it. Red, I guess. Obviously in autumn you get red, but autumn isn't my favourite season because it means the end of summer, which makes me sad. It's very pretty season, but it's the end of summer. So I guess also like sunsets. Like I do really I love a good sunset. Obviously that does come with more pastel colours, but I quite like lots of multicolour as well. Like I don't.
The number you dialed is not a working number. Please check the number and dial again.
That's one thing I always think is really amazing. I don't know if it's me being a bit too emotional about it, but yeah, I think just thinking about when you go to a university course, and generally you get a lot of international students and people from all over the UK, and I always find that really amazing, even though it's fairly common. But I'm not sure if that's because I grew up in a small village with a very limited number of people, and so going to uni and meeting people from Italy and from America and from Russia, all over Europe, and even Japan and Asia and all over the place. And whenever I stop to think of that, and I would always think of the chances of that happening. So I would, when I would reflect, and think, what are the chances, me growing up where I did in this little village in Warwickshire, and not having too many friends and just feeling quite isolated. And, you grow up in that type of environment, you think, this is it, your whole world is that tiny little place. And then you go to university and you meet all these people who've had, they've all ended up at the same point. They've all wanted to do the same thing you've done. They've all got into similar things like drawing and the same types of film. And they've all followed a similar path, and you've all ended up in this one place. And the fact that you get on, and the fact that you become great friends, I always find that really amazing and inspiring.
If I'm just walking along the street and the sun's there, I'm enjoying it, but I'm not really feeling it. I feel like to really kind of feel it, I need to be like in nature, in a park, lying, sitting, not moving, but actually enjoying that moment of that sun and feeling the heat to really feel sunshine. So I feel like sunshine's not the same in winter. That's the last time. Favourite time would be somewhere abroad, when this type of sunshine you don't get in England, but it's just beating down on you and you can feel it in every part of your body. Amazing.
Do people think too much and feel too little?
When you say we, do you mean we as a human race, or we as in me specifically? I mean, as a human race, I mean.
That's a really bold question.
I can't speak for other people, I don't know. I don't feel enough at the right time. I definitely think they're the wrong. There's a disconnect with what I'm thinking about and what I should be feeling. Like I was crying my eyes out at Toy Story 2 and 3 the other week. I think everyone thinks and feels just enough, but it's always kind of the wrong time or place.
thoughts and feelings are something they're entwined, but no, they're very different. So I feel like sometimes people they have like two brains. They have the rational brain, they have the emotional brain. So the question is asking is, do we use the emotional brain too much and use the rational brain too little? But I feel like I feel like you need to use both. I feel like there isn't like a one or the other. You need to use the rational brain and the emotional brain to really get to any sort of wholeness in any decision that you make in life. I think feelings are automatic. I mean, thoughts are automatic as well to an extent, but feelings are kind of felt in the body. So I feel like even if you're thinking about things, your body is still, well, no, some people shut their body down. But at another point, at some point in your life, you will have these emotions, and you can shut them off. So I think it's actually unhealthy to be shut down from your feelings. So I don't think you can ever have one in isolation. I think the aim should be duality between the two.
Yes, I think that there needs to be more people that take a step back, including me, and just go like, how do I feel right now? And then base what they're thinking about on that, rather than allowing their thoughts to take their emotions on like a weird ride. I think it's very easy to feel a certain way and then just have like start with like one thought and then have like 20 thoughts, and suddenly you feel a completely different way, and that like one change of emotion has been based on just you going like on a journey. And it's very peculiar. I think it's quite scary how without anything occurring you can change your own mood by just having all these random thoughts. And unless you're thinking about something particularly positive, it's probably going to be negative. Like, say for example, if you're in a good mood and then you start worrying about something you've got to do tomorrow, and then you keep worrying about it, and then you're like, oh, but the same thing happened last week when this thing happened, and then you start getting worried about that, and then you're like, oh, what if I meet up with Dave again? I hate Dave. And then you hate Dave, and you're angry and you're worried, all because you started thinking about tomorrow.
There's certainly a lot of times where I wish I would stop thinking about things. It's like, it's really not healthy to go over things in the past, I find. I often end up doing that. You know, just lying in bed at night, just reliving so many things and just thinking what you would do better, or how you could have solved something, or why did I do that? Like wishing you could have not done something, even if it was like 5 years ago, 10 years ago. I think it's not healthy to do that. I think it's always much healthier to just try and move on, not dwell on things. Obviously you got to learn from the past, but not I was about to say we have to transcend the past, but that sounds just like total wankery. But I suppose that's it. It's like you learn and you move on, but you don't dwell, don't fester. I found that's a good truth for myself. Festering ain't good.
Between the two, but the actual question was, do we do one more too much and the other not enough? Not what do we want more? So then I guess.
Where are you going? What's noted?
No, I think it depends on the person. I think some people think too much. I think some people feel too much. And I think you need to reach this kind of equilibrium of thinking and feeling, and using both to live your life.
I think you've got to have a balance between how much you're thinking, how much you're feeling, and how you respond to that. And I think if we were people who felt a little more than we thought, it would probably be a kinder world that we lived in.
Do we think too much and feel too little? Probably both. I think generally, for me specifically, it's quite the opposite. I tend not to think things through very much in like day-to-day living, I mean. As in, I don't think ahead very much. I really do let my feelings dictate a lot of things. But up to a point, I mean, it's hard, that's why I'm being a bit wishy-washy, because it's like, I don't really, sometimes it ends up in bad situations, but I don't always consider everything very well. But then other times I will stop and think about things. I think with the more experience I get with things, the more I do tend to stop and think, because I think definitely growing up I was much more about feeling over thinking, because I was in trouble all the time in primary school and secondary school, just for stupid little things, but it was always just because I would just do things because I felt like it, or I wouldn't stop to think, because I always had the mentality that, it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. Things will always work out in the end. Like, even if I'm in trouble now or I'm feeling bad now, given time, it won't matter. The main thing that I've come with experience is considering other people's feelings, which is the main thing. I think that's what gives me the most inhibitions now, is stopping to think, consider how it might affect other people if I do something dumb. It's more often about what you say than what you do. I think generally we could all do better from trusting our feelings and listening to our feelings, but also I think it's healthy to think things over and not always trust your basis instincts.
Yeah, bit scary that kind of we think so much about what isn't needed, and it often kind of changes how we feel in the moment.
Does a rose by any other name smell as sweet?
Message 3, GA03MN.
You can just say what you feel about it.
I mean, yeah. Why wouldn't it?
Earlier about the words that sound like what they are. Some things are named quite well, aren't they? And I'm afraid I can't give you any examples, but like a monkey is quite a good name. You know what I mean?